We live. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Roundtable, and we're going to sit down tonight with our beloved Imam Luqman Ahmad from Toledo Masjid of Islam, Imam Naeem Abdullah from Masjid Mu'min in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and a great Imam, our beloved brother Faheem Lea from Cuba School and Islamic Center in Camden, New Jersey, and myself, Imam Amin Muhammad from Masjid Muhammad in Atlantic City. Inshallah ta'ala, we're going to have an open discussion from the Imam, black talk, straightforward talk about the issues that concern our community. And we're going to leave it open for the Imams to have what they think are the most significant aspects that need to be addressed in the black community, especially in the inner city. And we're going to have just a frank, open discussion. So we're not going to pick exactly what each Imam will talk about. We're going to give each Imam an opening 5 minutes to put his ideas on the table. Each Imam will go for 5 minutes, and then we'll come back after each Imam, and then we'll expand on each of those concepts. So, inshallah, with respect to our elder Imam and the senior among us, Imam Luqman Ahmad, inshallah, the floor is yours for 5 minutes to have an opening discussion.
Jazakallah khair, Imam. Thank you for calling me this afternoon about this too, because alhamdulillah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. I'm more of a tactician at this juncture as far as Imam is concerned. So my view is taking a very, very tactical Sharia law approach to everything, especially when you have civilizational dysfunction. So I look at 3 different areas that we have to work on that are workable as far as civilization is concerned. One is generational continuity. Generational continuity has to do with you as a Muslim passing down Islam to your next generation. Of course, that helps when there's healthy marriages, but even when there's not healthy marriages, there has to be a concern with passing down that Islam that you have to the 3 or 4 children you have, so they can pass it down to the 3 or 4 children that they have, or the 1 child that they have. So you start to see a groundswell of people who ideologically, whether they're super practicing Islam or not, but they are indeed Muslim ideologically from how they were grown. So that gives you people who are going to be on the ground going forward. So without generational continuity, the Islam stops at that individual. You Muslim, you practice, maybe you don't practice, it stops at you, you die, it's gone in your family. Okay, that has to do with, that helps to lead to the overall extinction of our Muslim community. So that's one. Number 2, I believe in taking a fiqh approach to everything. Everything that has to do with community, that has to do with organization, that has to do with systems, that has to do with systems of zakat, has to do with systems of leadership, selection of leadership, using Ahlul Hul wal Uqd, for example, using the movers and the shakers in the community, having imama, having imara, having designated monies for things, having designated people for things. So in a community, if you want to think of, well, who's there to take care of the single women and children? Well, this brother and sister right there, that's their job. They're in charge of that. Who's in charge of hunting down rumors, for example. This brother right here, that is his job. So that way, you don't have the whole Muslim community running back and forth to jump on issues. Because now we have a situation where if something goes on, like the whole Muslim mob is dedicated to that one thing, to that one issue, where really you could just have 2 or 3 people dedicated to the issue so the rest of us can continue doing what we're doing. That's the second. And the third issue has to do with congregation. Without congregation, you have nothing. You can talk all day long. You can take all the slogans, you can quote all the verses. If you do not have actual congregations of Muslims with an imam, with an emir, with a president, with a viceroy, whatever you want to call it, then you will not have civilizational movement. No people ever in history have ever had any notion of civilizational movement without having someone in charge, whether it's America, whether it's Egypt, whether it's Saudi, whether it's Alaska. There has to be somebody in charge. Even when they settled the Old West, and I think my time is about up, even when they settled the Old West, they would move to a town. Okay, we're settlers. Okay, well, hey, we're going to need a sheriff. We're going to need a mayor. We're going to need a judge. We're going to need a jail. You cannot have a situation where you have mobs and mobs of Muslims all over the country who are not attached to anything. There is no one that can hold them accountable in terms of Islamic work or Islamic commitment. They're you peek out, yet they have a voice. That is unheard of. So that's what I'm going to say right now, and I'll just turn it over to the next person. Jazakallah khair. Unless you want me to keep talking, which I will. So I took my 5 minutes, ma'am. So alhamdulillah.
Barakallahu bikum, jazakumullahu khaira. Amazing. You were right on time. MashaAllah. It's going to be a beautiful night. Inshallah, next up, Imam Naeem. Take 5 minutes to give some opening address to some of these topics, and I'm recording them, so we're going to come back to each other, and we're going to really expand on these topics, inshallah. So Imam Naeem, barakallahu bikum.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa afdalu salatu wa tamu taslim ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een, amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum. I wrote down a few things several months ago that I believe a conversation like this should entail. Many of these issues we talk about amongst ourselves and are issues that should be, that have to be addressed. And so these are these issues I'm going to mention. I'm not going to speak a lot about them. I'm just going to throw them out there. Number one, a lot of times our communities don't have the necessary funds to do what we need to do, including compensating the imams. And, most imams in the African American or Black community don't get paid. And so they have to work a job or do something else to take care of themselves and their families. So while they're working this job, this is the time and energy that's being taken away from the communities that they're supposed to lead. And so most African American communities, they are left with the leftovers, the remnants of what energy and what time the imam has left after he finishes work, etc. So we have to discuss financial compensations for our compensation for our imams, and general financial stability for our communities. Another thing that we have to discuss is number one, we have to revive the subject or the concept of Jamaa'ah or community, because that's almost like a foreign. That's almost like what is that? Jamaa'ah, community. What is that? Whereas back when I believe all of us became Muslim, or in a case like Imam Ahmad, Jamaat was a no-brainer. It was understood. It wasn't something that was up for conversation. It was just something you automatically did. And so now we live in the the opposite of that. So we have to revive the concept of Jamaat Islamic community. What does that look like? How does it function? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And included in that, when we talking about Jamaat or Islamic communities, we also have to have a real blunt and frank conversation, because when we have Islamic communities or Jamaats, now we're talking about different communities linking up together to form some type of federation, collective, or what have you. And so now you have to discuss the issue that a lot of us don't usually try to shy away from, is who is and isn't acceptable in the collective. Like, where do we draw the boundaries at? Because there are a lot of different ideas about what Islam is. Where do we draw the line at? Like, number one, okay, you just have to be a Muslim. A whole lot of people say they're Muslim. There are people that say that they're Muslim and they believe that there's a prophet after Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You gonna allow them in? So where do you draw the line at? That has to be a conversation that we have to have, and we can't get around it. If we ignore that, ignoring that will bring about problems that people that came before us tried to ignore and just tiptoe around. We can't tiptoe around it. We have to address it. We have to. The third thing I have written down is we have to have some type of protocol, public relations. For example, if an issue comes up and people want to know the Black Muslims' position on it, they shouldn't be able to go to 3 different Black imams to get 3 different positions on it. I mentioned, I put joint fundraisers there, but I kind of like addressed that already. An implementation of a pro-Black Islamic curriculum, because for a lot of people, being pro-Black is un-Islamic. Being pro-Black is asabiya, is tribalism, is nationalism. And we all know that that's not the case. And, I'm preaching to the choir here, but a lot of the books that we teach from, a lot of the scholars that we take from, most of the time they're not African, they're not Black. So we need to come up with a curriculum that we're educating our people with, that don't omit, that don't leave out the Black contribution and part that Blacks and Africans have played in Islam. So we have to discuss that. In sharing resources, some of the things I wrote here are kind of redundant, but that's what I have now. I believe my 5 minutes is up, so I'll pass up the mic.
Tayyib, Imam, Barakallahu Bikum. Imam Faheem, inshallah, give your 5 minutes of opening points, inshallah, so that we can really build on these conversations. It looks like it's going to be a lovely night of conversation.
Inshallah ta'ala. Alhamdulillah.
What happened to you?
Well,
Go ahead, Imam Faheem.
oh, you introduced me already? I think I got disconnected for a moment.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Bismillah wa salatu wa salamu ala ashrafu al-anbiya wa mursaleen Sayyidina wa Habibina al-Mustafa Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsan ila yawm al-din wa ba'd. Firstly, I'd like to thank Imam Amin for inviting me to be a part of this roundtable discussion. And for all the people tuning in, we appreciate your time with us today. Alhamdulillah. In light of some of the things that are going on, it's made us focus on some things we need to do and how we need to regroup. And most of it has already been mentioned. But I think the most important thing first is that we need to have one concentrated effort that we need to start with. And I believe probably the best place is to start is with economics. Have a concentrated economic plan where we're going to be able to empower people, because when money's involved or some type of benefit is involved, that's when you get people's attention, And once we put the economics together, we need to really, if we don't start moving into one place, at least every place that we're located, that we're concentrated in that particular area, and so like there should be a Muslim town, and wherever Muslims are, wherever we situated at, it should be like a Muslim town. Like, this is where the Muslims are. This is where they live. This is where they work. They got their own businesses. And it should be similar to how it's been in this country, where the American way is that you carve out your own territory, you mark your borders, and you don't let people in. Yeah, it's all the big melting pot and united we stand and all that. But the real way is that you separate yourself, you mark out your territory, and if anybody crosses your border, you shoot them. Now, don't take that literally. I'm just joking, but that kind of thing. So then after that, once we get our economics together and we get our living situation together, then we concentrate on just community building. When we live together, we have a chance to build our families, build our communities, build our children. We have an influence on politics. We have an influence on many of the things that happen in the society because we have some power, And, this is one of the things I believe that we need to focus on. What is going to translate into power, authority, and control for us? That's what we need to do, because as it stands now, whether we're Muslim or just regular Black people, we're too reactionary to this society and some of the stuff that's been happening, which won't stop. There's going to be another Greg Floyd. There's going to be another one. Matter of fact, I think 2 days after he got killed, there was another one. I forget where it was, but it's not going to stop. But we got to do something that's proactive, that's going to really help us to have our own, because it's possible that you can have your own police, your own community. It's possible that you can have your own politics in your area. And we need to start looking at those things as far as solutions, instead of just waiting for the next thing to happen and we're responding out of anger and rage, and then it still doesn't amount to anything, So I think that's the way we go. We have numerous examples, from Islam. You take the example of how Allah says He inspired the bee. It says to take yourself in the mountains and make your houses there. You construct your surroundings, and it starts with a vision. It starts with a vision. So we gotta have one united vision. Carve out our territory, put our money together. Empower our people, and just build from there, inshallah ta'ala. And I think, we can really go in the direction that we need to go, inshallah. So I think that's about 5 minutes, Imam. Was that good?
It's good to me.
Mashallah. I can't hear you, Imam.
Imam, you on mute.
I'm sorry, I'm on mute. I will do my 5 minutes in 2 minutes because I really want to get into the conversation. But I listened to all the points, and for me, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. One of the things that I think, if I put an order of priority of things that we need to do, the first thing that I think that we need to focus on, I believe, as a people, as a community, in the African American community, is Islamic education. Because ultimately, we are Muslims, and that is our base. And therefore, we need to define what is the proper understanding of Islam. Because we've had many movements of people striving to do things in our communities, and they would last sometimes years, sometimes decades, and then ultimately find out they had a misunderstanding of Islam, which ultimately serves to break down all the progress that they made. So I think one of the primary focuses, so that doesn't happen, we need to learn Islam properly in our education, define what that is, and then set in a process where we would pass that down to the succeeding coming generations. So for me, the first thing in Islam that I think when we get that, is we need to establish our basic Islamic foundational sciences and understand them well in terms of our proper belief, in terms of our fiqh, our jurisprudence, and in terms of our spirituality, our aspect of connecting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is understood as a tasawwuf, right? And we need to define that. Sufism, and a term that has got, I believe, a real bad understanding in our people, which doesn't reflect our Islamic tradition. So I think as a primary base for all of our movement, we need to have a sound understanding of these three primary sciences in Islam, which were mentioned in the Hadith of Jibreel in terms of al-Iman, al-Islam, and al-Ihsan. And this is what I mean by Aqidah, fiqh, and tasawwuf. So that's one aspect that I think we need to deal with so that we can have longevity in our efforts. The second aspect is community and leadership. That we do, I agree, we need to establish Jamaa'ah. We need where we have communities that are at the local level who connect with communities throughout the country, and as a national effort, we establish a national leadership that represents all of the local leaders, like you have in any government. You have towns and they have mayors, then you have states and they have governors, and ultimately those governors lead up to Congress or this type of concept. And we have it in Islam. There are different levels of leadership, but we do need to establish for specifically the African American Muslims a national leadership that is supported by local communities. That we come up with some kind of charter that we understand we're going to serve our people, and we formulate that. But it is also not taking away the independence of each local community. So I think that's a thing, establishing community and establishing relationships between those communities. That is extremely important because we can share resources and share ideas. The third point is economic development, which was mentioned, and I'm saying economic development where we have a central fund that is dedicated to serving the needs of our national community, so that where there is certain money that is put aside that we jointly raise, and we take into consideration the needs of each respective community and be a support for each other. Because what we have sometimes is we have communities that are not able to survive or they struggle on their own. Where if we were together, joining our resources, we could at each time empower each individual community that will make them a strength for the whole. So these three aspects, I think, are the most important things that we need to focus on: is Islamic education, the primary Islamic sciences of al-Aqidah, fiqh, and tasawwuf, community, building Jamaa'ah, establishing cooperation collected throughout the nation, and then establish an economic base by which all of our communities can be empowered. The more affluent communities take care of the poor communities. Those poor communities, they develop, and then they take on the community. They take on the support of communities that are still struggling, and together we build a national African American Muslim movement that our people are in dire need of. Now, that's me.
Okay, do I got to raise my hand?
Now, no, so go ahead. So we can, whoever's going to expound, we got all these ideas. Now we can go ahead and expound together, inshallah.
I like to touch on a few things, okay? First of all, let me just be clear, and Imam, you already know, and Imam, Naeem, you know, Faheem, I don't talk to you too much, but Imam, my belief And what I suggest to Muslim communities such as ours or Black American Muslims community is, one, you have to take a tactical approach, almost like you are in battle. Not that we're in any physical battle, but we are in a battle of a sort. And so I believe in taking tactical approach. Number one, we know that any idea that sprouts up in a Black American Muslim community by imams, organizations, any idea that we ever come up with, if it is a good idea, you will have powerful immigrant-dominated organizations going to come. They're going to take your idea. They're going to apply funding to the idea that you haven't funded, and they're going to work it on their side and almost act like you. We're undermined all the time. Part of that is because we don't have a political, I don't give a fuck wing. Everybody should have that. I can't understand. Every country, every nation, every group, every organization that's involved with people have people in that organization who do not care about tippy-toeing around and hurt nobody's feelings, because we have a situation where there are people that it works in their best interest to see the extinction of Black American Muslim community. Black American Muslims are only 13% of the American Muslim population. 13%. They used to be 33%. Then they were 24% some years ago in 2002. Now they're 13%. If you look at present trends, we're not having children who are staying in Islam. We have 70% of single parent households. The majority of Black Muslims who are out there today are single. You can't even go and grab 20 families, 30 families. You got individuals, you got broken families. So we have to organize on the basis of what we have. And for the immigrant community, and I'm telling you, and I speak Arabic and I read publications and conversations with immigrant imams. The trend is, the prevailing feeling is, listen, let the Black American Muslims die off. Let them die. Leave them alone. Because in the 50 years, there'll be 2-3% of the population. We will be the majority population of Muslim in America. Will be immigrants, recent immigrants that came after 1970, and their children and their grandchildren were better educated. We have nicer masajid. We have more money. We're more part of the mainstream America. We're not here to, we basically want to be like, and many of us are categorized as white. Man, if we just leave these Negroes alone and let them die out, they're dying out. That is what people are saying behind closed doors. I'm telling you, I have had this conversation with other imams. They're like, what? What do you mean, dawah? Why should we invest any money into the Black American Muslim community? Number one, they ain't got no money. Secondly, we can't make them that powerful because we have economic interests. We have liquor stores in the Black neighborhoods. What do you think would happen if you started getting powerful Black Muslim communities and they start to deal with that liquor store issue in Black communities? Don't you know they're pumping something like $30 million a day out of Black American Muslim-owned liquor stores are pumping $30 million a day. That's the minimum. That's if we just use the barest numbers out of Black American communities all over the country. 30 million a day out, 30 million out, next day, today, 30 million, 30 million, 30 million, 30 million, 30 million, 30 million. And not putting anything back. So you got to be like a revolutionary. And to me, and I am a patriot. I'm not making no. I love my country. I love America. And I will stand up for the good of America. Man, this is a perfect opportunity for Black American Muslims. Number one, listen, we are in a country that does offer us some protections. You can organize in America as long as you're non-violent. Anybody going to stop you? Nobody's going to stop you from organizing politically. Nobody's going to stop you from building. Nobody's going to stop you from even addressing the liquor store issue. And nobody's going to stop you. You can do what you want in America as far as that. We're not talking about fighting, tearing up, burning down, nothing. Talk about simple civic addressment of issues. So this is where we need to take the opportunity. That's why everybody's not going to take my position. I don't expect it. We shouldn't have everybody taking my position. I'm a tactician. And so we should use people for what they are. Use for what they are. So that's my position. Let me just finish one more thing. The other thing, this is just my, this is just my view on it, and I've written about it. Is that as far as
let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Can you hold that second thought so we can
get
the first one? Write your second thought down. Don't forget it because I want to.
No, go ahead. I want to hear you. I want to hear your take on that.
Imam Amin, Imam Naeem, or Imam Faheem, can y'all respond to what y'all understood from his point that he was making? Whoever wants to go first.
Imam Naeem is eager to go.
Go ahead, man.
Don't be shy now.
Don't be shy, man, because I know how you feel about that stuff. You've written as much.
Yeah, we still having problems. Just that we still identify each other as indigenous Muslims and immigrant Muslims. And we have a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَتَسِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. That seems to not have resonated with us for all the time that we've been here. And what Imam Luqman was saying, it's to me, it's like more of a reason why we need to bond together, because us really establishing ourselves as Black Muslims doesn't mean that we're anti anything else. We just really need to galvanize our strength and put our resources together because of the attacks on us by race and by religion, because we got another element of dealing with racism within the deen. As the Imam just so really told us, like, I was at a masjid one time doing Jamaa'ah, and one of the brothers told me, he said, they will not follow anybody unless it's a imam from Palestine. If it was anybody else, they ain't going to respect them. But they would, but they were cordial, smiling in people's faces. But they made it clear, like, and we got to deal with that stuff. I mean, but to me, that's just more of a reason for us to bind together, because I mean, we just being like marked for death, written off. Our efforts that we put forth in this country for immigrants to have the freedoms and the luxuries that they have to be able to walk free. It's like it's like insignificant now. So, we just got to keep pushing forward, inshallah.
Imam Naeem, any comment on that?
Man, I think first of all, I agree with everything that was said. But there has to be a massive education of our people. When I say our people, I'm talking about Black people. And first and foremost, whenever we're talking about issues, we have to make clear to everyone who's listening to us who we're talking to. Like I just did a live earlier, and I was over redundant that I was talking to Black people, Black American Muslims. And I mean, even though, this is live, this is a public platform, other people are going to be listening and watching whatever. But my address was I was speaking to my people. In this context, I was talking to African American Muslims. A lot of times when we having these type of conversations, the audience is not clear on who the addressee is. Like, for example, I may be watching a lecture of someone, and just because I'm watching it from YouTube and the Imam is Black, that doesn't mean he's talking to me. Like us here on this platform, we're talking to Black Americans. But other Imams, for argument's sake, they may be on similar platforms talking about similar subjects, and they're not talking to Black Americans. They're talking to the immigrant community. And so that's number one. Number two, we have to have like a rigorous and redundant, campaign education from the Quran and the Sunnah on what Asabiya is. Because a lot of people think just us talking about this like we are is un-Islamic. It's Asabiya, it's racism, it's nationalism, it's tribalism. And when you examine the Quran and the Sunnah and what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam actually said about al-Asabiya, you find that it's not. And so that's one hurdle, because a lot of people, they're intellectually turning us off right now. They're just a bunch of pseudo black nationalists, so-called Muslims, talking about that black stuff. And so with our people, I'm not even talking about the immigrants. I'm talking about our people. We have to educate them on that first, because when the African American Muslim has confidence in what he's doing is Islamic, he or she will have a more vigor and more energy with regards to that thing. But if they think, I don't know, it sounds good, but I don't know if it's Islamic, you may get that lukewarm response, that lukewarm participation. So I think that needs to take place.
Can I come in on that, Imam?
I gotta come at you first. No, seriously, one of the things, and I had this conversation with a few other imams and leaders around the country, just maybe all day I've been talking to different imams and different functioning organizations. And one of the things that I think that we need to be clear about is what Imam Naeem mentioned, and it was an answer to what you were saying, that we got to have our own platforms where we speak as men and not as slaves. And what do I mean by that?
There you go.
I mean,
now you got my attention.
The point of, I don't care what no one else think about what we're doing.
There you go.
Right?
Alhamdulillah.
And we got to develop that. If I'm in my home, no one's going to come in my house and tell me how to take care of my family.
That's right.
I'm a man.
There you go, brother. Now you're talking.
I don't care what you think. I'm not asking you what you think. This is what I'm doing for my people, my family, and future generations. I'm not going to let another man raise my children.
That's right.
Not gonna happen. So what I'm saying is, for us, when we have these conversations, we don't need permission to do anything. Right? I mean, I just think so. So if we need to have these conversations, then what we need to do is build an infrastructure that supports our communities and our conversations so no one can buy in. I'll give you an example. I received a call about this George Floyd situation and what do the non-Black Muslims, what can they do to help? And he said, Imam, you're in the community as a Black man, what can we do to help? And I looked directly at the person and I talked to him, I said, nothing. You can't do anything. What you can do, if you want to do anything, is you can support us in doing what we have to do, but you can't do it. We can't allow you to take the lead in any effort that we should be doing. And I think we need to be serious about that, to say, listen, we have an agenda, we have situations that we must take care of. So I'm just saying, for us, I think we got to stop our own sense of being passive and that slave mentality that says that we only can move when master says we can move. And we used to do that with white folks, and now we've changed it to immigrants, and we must stop that. That was just what I had to say in relation to your point of they can't finance us. We got our own money. We don't need you. We got our own masajid. If you're going to help us, you're going to help us as an equal, not as an inferior, and we refuse to be in that position.
Imam, that is the crux of the problem. That is, once we get to that point, I'm talking about the average everyday Muslim. You take that point, once you start looking at yourself as a colony of somebody else, once you stop having grown-ass Muslim men saying, well, the sheikh over there said this. And another thing about the shiur and about people accepting certain principles in the deen, we all operate, on the principles of Islamic law, of usul, of proper fiqh. My position is this. Now, I can't speak for all the scholars in America. I know many of them. I know many of them overseas. Not as much. My own shiur, many of them have passed away. But until scholars are willing to sit down with us, or sit down with me and have open dialogue about any issue regarding Islamic law, Quran and Sunnah, or soul with respect to America, because we know more about our country than them jokers. Okay? So it was a time where you didn't have as much knowledge in the United States of America, and we had eminent scholars who had passed away, like Muhammad Abdulaziz, like who was an eminent scholar. We've had our scholars. We have a lot of people. We have a lot of scholars or scholarly people in our midst, enough that we can discuss civilizational law according to the Sharia, Islamic law according to the Sharia, and there's new fiqh that they're not aware of because you weren't born and raised in America. It's impossible for you to understand our country. And just because a person gets citizenship does not give them, 400 years of episodic memory. That just does not happen. So my position has always been this. If a scholar wants to challenge anything about black this or that, man, let him come in a public forum and own his own words, bring his dalil and challenge it, or have a discussion with me or any other imam who promotes whatever theory, because I know what I'm talking about. And Imam, I know you know what you're talking about. Imam Naeem, I read your stuff. You know what you're talking about. It ain't like we guessing. We trying to figure it out. I've read all of you work. I've heard all of you. Not if I haven't heard as much as you, but Imam, I see you. Imam, I see you stuff all the time. You say, hey, this is like okay. This is Kitab Sunnah. This is what okay. So if anybody has an issue with that, Muslim laymen, we have to start valuing our scripture and our system of law. So a lot of scholars, they don't really know how to handle America. They can handle it from afar, but when you get down to the nuanced issues of budding Muslim civilization, they don't have a freaking clue. I'm not mad at you. I mean, mashallah, I don't have a freaking clue about what's going on overseas. If I just popped in a Muslim country that's been going through stuff for hundreds of years, I'm not going to understand how to navigate the particular nuances of how to put Islam down in that country. I'm going to make a lot of mistakes, and they make a lot of mistakes too. That's why it's good to have that political wing. You need to have people in I think every Jamaa'ah should have, if we got to train people, man, I'll train people in politics. I'm a political trainer way before Imam, before Imam, I was involved in politics, man. I used to train people. Train them in politics, in campaign work. Train the person. Listen, this is what you got to do. This is how to do this, how to do this, how to do this. And Islam, we need that. We just don't have that. We're going to have that soon because it doesn't take us long to catch on. But man, I mean, what you said about not asking permission, man, that's the crux of the whole thing. That's the crux of the whole thing about being a man in Islam.
So let me ask a question. Go ahead, Imam Naeem.
I just wanted to clarify that when I made the comments about Asabi and educating, I was talking about our people. I just want to double down on that. I'm not talking about them. I just want to.
What Imam Naeem? So, we got people that may not understand all of our Arabic terms. What is Asabiya?
Asabiya, usually people think it's just like an equal English to Arabic translation of racism or tribalism. But our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was asked in many different hadith. He was asked, "What is al-asabiyah?" He was asked on one occasion, "Is it al-asabiyah that a person loves his people?" And he said, "No, walakin min al-asabiyah yu'inu qawm ala dhulm." The al-asabiyah is that you help your people in wrongdoing. So it's nothing wrong for any people to love their own people, or even any people to help their tribe, their countrymen, their clan, or whatever, anything that's good. But it becomes al-asabiyah when a person helps their people, their tribe, their clan, their nation in wrongdoing or oppressing. That's al-asabiyah. And so everyone you talk to has a different definition of what al-asabiyah is. And so a conversation like this, we've already been branded. Al-asabiyah, boom, it's wrong, haram, bid'ah, kulluhum mubtadi'een. So that's why I said this knowledge that we all here know, it's common knowledge to us. It has to be made common to the average Black American Muslim.
Yes.
They have to understand that.
Yes.
and they have to have confidence in that.
That's a good point.
So, question. All right, so we got to the point of we know what we got to do. So let's address some of these things that y'all said. What do we need to do? Number one, because these, I think, was something that everyone talked about, was community building and building Jamaa'ah. What do we got to do? What are some steps? And we can try to summarize because we'll have more talks. But what are some steps that we can do to build stronger communities?
Imam, I think one of the first steps is, and it's the hard step. I mean, it's a hard step, man. It's hard. But, and I'm going to start doing this myself as an imam very shortly when I get some software. We have to reinstitute membership in Bay'ah. You have to have Bay'ah. I'm already letting people know, listen, if you don't have a Bay'ah with me, if you are not directly supporting me financially or have a Bay'ah where Imam, I have a Bay'ah, you know, I'm available to help in Islamic work. If you don't have that with me, I am not your Imam. You can call me Imam, or you my Sheikh, unless you are my student in a class with me online, like I'm teaching you and you're taking knowledge from me directly, I'm not your Sheikh, I'm not your Imam. I'm an Imam at large, I'm an advocate at large, but no, we just can't have people who peep into Islamic activity when they feel like it and then give them a voice. I'm just peeping in today. I'm not really down with nothing. I'm just coming today to weigh my voice. I think you know, like when people say stuff like, what kind of Imam are you? If I'm not your Imam, I don't really care what you think. It don't make me any difference. Now, y'all can care. I mean, I don't care. I care about the Ummah. I care about Islam. I'm dedicated to the Ummah to my last breath, inshallah ta'ala. Inshallah. And I've been doing this for a long, long time without stop. Even in my worst, Imam, you know, in my worst, I'm still, you know what, I'm homeless, but guess what, man? I'm still working for the Ummah. Homeless? Yeah. I'm out. I'm in a bad situation, but guess what? Because this is what I know how to do. That's what I've been doing since I was 13 years old. And some of you have been doing it just as long, you know, ever since you, you know, for decades. So we have to really be clear with people about stuff because a lot of people, they just out there to the wayside. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, but the Prophet told us about these times. A lot of people don't have anything. They don't want to belong to anything. They don't want to be accountable, but they're just confused. If you're confused, get yourself an imam. If you see an imam out there who you think, hey, this imam is really doing the right thing. He's trying to advocate. Well, first of all, you go to him and say, imam, listen, can you be my imam? And let him give you his term. He might say, listen, all I want you to do is just, you know, do the right thing. That's what I do. When people make better than me, it's like, what do you want me to do, imam? Imam, I want you to pray, fast, do the right thing, and join good, forbid evil. That's it. If you can support me, alhamdulillah. If you can't support, go to the master. That's what I do when people make a bad to me. It's like, no, I want you to sum them out. No, I want you to believe in Allah and His Messenger, do what's right, give proper advice, make your prayers. You married, bro? Yeah, man. Take care of your wife. You got kids? And take care. Yeah, you got take care of your kids, bro. Teach them Islam. That's your bay'ah. Boom, boom. But we have to institute the bay'ah because the bay'ah has to do with civilizational order. Everybody knows that. You make a bay'ah when you buy Netflix. Okay, you could try it for a week, but if you want to keep Netflix, you got to make a bay'ah of $9.95 a month, homie. No, really, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. If you ever look at the fine print when you sign up for a monthly service, it is just like a bay'ah. You agree by signing this, you agree that you will blah, blah, and you will abide by our rules. They tell you right there. You agree that you will abide by our rules that we have for this organization. If you open up a bank account, okay, by signing here, you agree with Chase Bank, you agree with Ally Bank, by signing anything. Everybody has bay'ah. If you get cable, they say, listen, okay, you're going to get cable? You want HBO? Okay, listen, you can try HBO for 3 months. After that, you agree to pay $6.95 per month, but you can break it anytime you want, but you're going to give us that $7 a month. Homie, if you want the cable, that's the same thing as a bay'ah. It's just that we've made the word bay'ah dirty. So we might have to really flip around terminology again. But all the stuff that we need is in the Sharia. And once we can communicate to that, I'm not good at communication like that because I don't really give a shit. Seriously, I really don't. I want to go to Jannah. I care about our law. I care about our people. The last thing on my mind is what do people think? Oh, what do you, because I've learned from experience, man. I've been a man for 25 years. I've learned,
Hey, Imam,
man, people who are down with you, they down. If they're not, they're not. I heard people, I just want to say this last thing. I've heard people say, Imam, if you would, because I remember a time where I was all diplomat, inshallah. People will say to Imam, if you just curb your tone, we're down. You curb your tone, you say, hey, you know what, man? If you curb your style, come on, man. I have learned from experience, man. People who get it. People who don't. That's my take. And you know what? I'm sorry to use profanity. I just wanted to put it in there. That was deliberate.
Here's one thing.
Allah forgive me.
I let all of our listening.
I just wanted to put that in. I should have did that.
We wanted to have this conversation, and we all of us have studied Islam enough to know the rules, but we want to have a conversation where we talk. We don't. It ain't formatted. It ain't in your box that you like. It ain't your politically. We talking. We brothers. We all know each other.
I'm sorry for cussing.
Black men. We got to do what we got to do. So, Imam, we going tag that to your enthusiasm, not your bad character.
Just not come on here, brother. Hope you let it brother.
All right, Imam Faheem, what you say?
There's one dear brother from another community I always talk with, man. One of the elders from the War of Deen community. And he always drops some jewels on me. And one of the things he always emphasizes is that he says, if we build Medina, the people will come. He said, we build Medina, the people will come. And what did he mean by building Medina? You know, what happened when the Prophet ﷺ went there? You know, the first thing he did was, you know, establish brotherhood, establish the masjid, put the hearts together, you know, put the warring tribes, you know, took that out of there. And, you know, walk with the people, you know, and that's part of our job that we got to do. We got to take people where they are. I mean, we got so many hats to wear and so much stuff to unpack. And sometimes it may seem overwhelming, but, you know, we just keep walking and putting a solid plan together, you know. So I was looking at some of the comments and, you know, someone said we should come with a solid plan and then, you know, all the opinion stuff. I mean, we just talking because this is what we do as black folk. We know how to spit, you know, we know how to talk, we know how to articulate, we know how to say, we know how to use words, you know. And so, you know, it's just, you know, for the people out there, we just having to talk and, you know, discussions and suggestions are surely welcome, you know. But we're looking to put together a nice concentrated plan that's going to be empowering for us as a people, you know. So wherever we go, we got like a network, man. I mean, I hate to use the example like the mafia, you know, but it's just like, you know, wherever city we go in, man, you know, we know who to see, we know who to check in with. You know, if something happens in this city, somebody else from the other city comes, they take care of the situation. We have our own military, we have our own legislation, we have everything, you know what I mean? And it can be done, you know, it can be done. And another thing we got to do is we got to reestablish trust in each other. You know, I mean, nowadays, you always hear people about, you know, talking about grabbing the bag. We got to make sure for these future generations that it's not just about grabbing the bag and because you put the work in, it's all about you. You know, you got to be ready to serve. You got to be ready to commit. You got to be ready to be dedicated. You know, we live in a time where people, you know, if the masjid is not serving their best interest, you know, they go to the masjid somewhere else, or they don't go to the masjid at all. Or now, you know, they can just Google the answers that they need, you know, and we losing this human connection, you know. So we just got to keep walking and really look at the Medinan model and try to build it as best as we can, inshallah.
Imam Naeem, about the community, how do we build these communities that we're talking about?
I think, can you hear me?
Yes.
Alhamdulillah, I think those of us here, we already have communities. I think that uh, each one of us have to uh, take it a step further and say, listen, if you consider part of this community, you're going to have to give a bay'ah. And what that bay'ah means, and and the stipulations of that, because Imam Luqman, he hit the nail on the head. The Arabic word bay'ah actually comes from the same word that means business transaction,
Right.
right? And when you do an Islamic business transaction, it's not a halal transaction unless you know exactly what you buy in and you know exactly what's being sold. Both sides of the transaction are spelled out. And so, I think from community, because from community to community, the bay'ah will look different. you know every community is different. Some people have communities that have been inherited to them. Some people have communities that a group of people got together and started, and they were on a particular manhaj or methodology or what have you, so they already locked in with regards to their organization. But so I think that the first step is for people like us to enforce that. And I know a lot of us are shy, even though when we're on a member, we're like rah rah rah, but we're kind of like shy people. So it's real. I'm speaking from experience. It feels awkward, brother. You need to give me bay'ah.
Right, exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
brother, you power tripping, man.
Yeah, right,
But
right.
but even Abu Bakr was like that. So Umar was the one who did it for him. Come give bay'ah to Khalifa to Rasulullah. Come give bay'ah to the successor of the Messenger of Allah. And however it has to happen, it needs to happen. And likewise, all over the country, because the black community has got to this low level, even when I became Muslim in 91, there were Jamaats existed and they were functioning, right? But now those Jamaats are almost all but extinct or almost gone. So there's a lot of other black Muslims who you know, don't have that or don't even have a physical place to go to connect to one. And I always tell those people that if there are two or three people more that agree with you, or you have to form a community, you have to form a
Exactly.
Jamaat.
Exactly.
You have to make one of you the leader,
Mm.
and and go forward within. Even a lot
That's
of
all.
people don't, they think, well, I can't do. We don't have a place. You have a living room. You
Mm-hmm.
know, when I
That's right.
came home, I
The
went to
old Islam, huh?
yeah. When I came home, I went to Masjid Taqwa. I heard Imam Siraj and all of the people that have been with him from day one tell me the story over and over and over again how Masjid Taqwa got started in a brother's living room. They used to move the couch over and do Juma. 1981. I wasn't even there. 1981. I think it was July or October or something. They started that. So, you know, and this is what it's going to take for a lot of us, because we have infrastructure, but in a lot of places around the country, there is no infrastructure. A lot of people starting from scratch. So,
We're almost at the 1 hour, so I'm gonna give 1 hour and 10 minutes. Uh, so we're going to continue this discussion, and
But let me just say about Imam. I mean, Imam Naeem. Imam Naeem. That's it right there. You just put it a little bit much more simpler than I would have put it, because I'm an intellectual jihadist. That's why no. I'm gonna tell you the reason. Just between me and you, the reason I love you so much. I really, literally listen to everything you say. You
mashallah.
say a lot of the same thing, but your demeanor is different than mine. You are more.
You're embarrassing me, huh?
No, I'm saying you're calmer than me. You're calmer. You're more stately. I be ready to like man, nix them niggas, right? Because of what I've been through in my life, But 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 that shyness is very true. It's the shyness. But the bay'ah, you cannot. I grew up in the daughter Islam. We grew up in daughter Islam. My whole life growing up was in the Daughter Islam community, and we had bay'at. Everybody had bay'at. We had umara. There was somebody. They even had people who their job was, if there's a rumor going around the community, you had a brother. His job is to hunt down rumors. So there's a rumor. Everybody else keep on going. He the rumor dude. He hunt it down. He'll come back and report to the Jamaa'ah. Well, hunt it down the rumor. Actually, this is not true. This is true. We check this, brothers. We had people for everything, from marriage, divorce. We even had apology. I remember when people used to laugh at us in the Darul Islam movement for having a person who was a qadi because he wasn't trained in Islamic University. But he was a judge. If something happened, a dispute, there was one brother, he would have to get all the information and make a decision. This is what the Quran says, what Sunnah says. That way we can keep moving on. That's Islamic. That's in every organization. So I like the way you put that, because if we can simplify that concept of Jamaa'ah and make it less scary, because we said people hear bay'ah, Jamaa'ah. No, brother, I'm not going to make bay'ah to go. No, we can simplify that. I think that would go a long way, because once you have dedicated communities under imams, brother, it's so easy to do stuff. It's so easy to do stuff. Like imam, I agree, you agree, and you got people in your community, we all agree. We can put up a building. We can say, we're all going to go here. We're going to build this masjid on this piece of land. It's 6 months. This one up, this one up, this school, this school. That's really how you, but when you have individual people who they're not connected, they're not, but we spend more money as a Black Muslim community on Netflix alone. If we just take the money that we collectively spend on Netflix, it's probably millions and millions of dollars. So that's what I'm gonna say right there. So I just wanted to say I really agree with what you're saying.
So if we can, we can end on this point, right? Before we have some closing 2-minute comments, we can end on one action item that we all agree that we can share with the people who attended this discussion in this roundtable, that all of us as imams agree that it is most beneficial for our people that all of us belong to a community under the leadership of an imam. Would we agree with that?
Absolutely.
So that's a consensus among us. No party,
that's it.
Departing voices. So if somebody
Absolutely.
says, well, what did they come up with? One thing we established for sure, that this group of imams, and I'm quite sure most imams would agree with it, that for our people specifically, and in general for everybody, but specifically for our people, we need to stop the individual, I do what I want, and everybody needs to be under an imam in their locality or an imam somewhere that they answer to, and a community that's under the leadership of an imam that they financially support. Do we agree with that?
Yes, but man, let me add one more thing to that about the immigrant community, because I served as an imam of a masjid for 20 years straight, and half the people in that masjid were immigrants, and they were just as loyal, if not more loyal. There were people who were in that masjid for my whole 20 years. They raised their children in that masjid, and so even though, my conversation is largely directed at Black American Muslims, but it's really not exclusive to them, because I know that there are a lot of immigrant Muslims who are very much in sync and in tune with what's going on and do want to be a part. And so I don't have any issue. I have immigrant Muslims who I'm their imam, and I have immigrants who I've been their imam for 22 years. Like, married all their kids to the spouses, everything. I mean, really. So, but those sort of people, they tend to understand the struggle we're dealing with. Even if I say Black this, Black that, they still see me at the masjid. I'm talking Black this. They understand what I'm saying.
But Imam, can I share something with you? And it goes back to that, a point I made.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, because all of us, and y'all know me, I'm always teaching in immigrant communities, in white communities, in Arab communities. I give classes all over the place. But I've never once, in big masjids, big organizations, in the Pakistani community, Bangladeshi community, Arab community, suburban white community, I've never once heard one imam say, talking about their issues, and to say, but let me understand there is Black people here too, and Black people follow us, and so we got to be concerned. I've never heard that. And so what I'm saying, I've never heard it. Not once, ever, not one time, never. I've never heard no one stop in the middle of their discussion and say, well, let's consider the Black Muslims.
You're right. Hey, man, you're right, bro.
So here's what I'm saying. Right. And we didn't take it offensive. And we might have been sitting there. We said, we understand, like Imam Naeem said, I know who they talking to. So what I would like us to begin to do is stop apologizing for talking to us unconsciously. We may not say it, but unconsciously, when we keep including someone who we're not talking to, we already clarified we're not talking about this issue. Why do we have to feel the necessity to keep going back and explaining ourselves? That is problematic.
Imam, you were right. You were right,
that's
bro.
My opinion.
You're right.
Imam,
You're correct. Touche.
Alhamdulillah. In this same vein, I'm looking at these comments here, and I can't read all of them because it's coming a little bit, too fast. But a lot of people saying, "What about the sister?" Or they did mention sisters. We talk. The sisters already included.
Already in there.
They're already included. I mean, I remember the last time I seen Imam Faheem in person, and we were talking about, for example, our governing bodies in our masjids, and because my majlis is mostly women, and he said same thing with me too, right? So
that's in the black community, right, Imam Naeem?
Exactly.
If it's not for the women, we don't survive.
Exactly.
Most of my advisors are women. Most of my advisors, my personal, professional advisor. When I get on the phone, sister, I mean, nothing marriage, no nothing. Most of my advisors are Muslim women. Are women.
Like and
my go-to advisors are women.
At least two of the sisters I'm seeing in the comments, and they're on the majlis. I mean, they can tell you. So I don't want people to say, "Oh, they didn't explicitly mention sisters." No, we talk about black people, and I don't know if y'all knew or not, but there are black women here. I mean, there are black sisters here. Right? So when we talk about black people, they're there. The sisters are there. We don't have that. That's a problem that the immigrants communities have. I mean, historically. I mean, the Quran speaks to the way the Arabs treat the women. And when they go back to their Jahiliyyah, their pre-Islamic ways, you see it reflected in their communities where their women don't have a voice. It's the same thing in the Desi community where, after the husband dies, she has no value and all that. When they go to their Jahiliyyah, they bring that in their communities. And it wasn't until it became politically correct in America until the Kufa put the spotlight on them. Then they started making spaces for the women in their masjids. For the black masjids, the African American masjids, they've been always on the majlis. It wasn't, that's a no-brainer for us here. This is a grassroots conversation.
But that's what I'm saying. If y'all come, like for instance, all y'all been into our masjid, the Masjid Muhammad. Who's running that thing? The women. Who's putting everything together, who's organized. The summit was ran by women. Though the men are out front sometimes, but the ones who are the backbone making this platform we on right now was organized by a woman. There was a woman who sent everything out, who put us together, who set it all up while we sitting there getting all the activates. So let's give the women props.
That's true.
So, I mean, we realize that in our communities, our women are there. But the problem is, and even in Africa, all of those who travel to Africa, the women are active in our original culture. The women ain't sitting in no back. The women are up front and running stuff. So what I'm saying for us, let's keep making our communities, the communities we know, not what somebody else is imposing on us. Now, the women are being the women, but the next question we got to ask ourselves and have that honest discussion, and our women probably will answer it for us, are our men being men?
That's a whole different conversation. But you know what? I'd like to see women use more of. Okay, I'm almost done, son.
No kids allowed to interrupt the session.
I'd like to see our women.
Be clout chasing, man. Some be clout chasing. I be watching them on your live.
I know, man. I know. Hey, he's an actor too. I'd like to see our women take an even greater approach because sometimes women are shy. And yes, go ahead, son.
Oh, I just want to share something quickly, man, before you go there, because the sisters keep putting it. We do have an issue, and that's a whole nother lecture and a talk and a whole thing. a lot of our sisters, as you mentioned, Imam Luqman, they're single, raising children by their own. And
Yeah,
a lot of these women, they can't find husbands. So that's something that got to be on our bucket list that
that's
we
another
must address.
conversation. That's another conversation. But no, but it's really about the Sharia and women. Our women have courage. We have women activists who go all around the world with their activism and their courage, and they speak out. And I think for Black American Muslim women, really, my advice is to embrace traditional knowledge because it works in your favor. Like embrace the knowledge, embrace, like study fiqh, study usul, foundation, because when a Muslim women speaks with scripture, and speaks with fiqh conviction, yes. Okay, I'm almost done, son. He don't care about nothing we saying. Okay, but yes, the women. Yeah, I just think that women can be empowered by traditional knowledge that will empower you, because when a woman comes out with tradition and fiqh and knowledge and usul, men like me, like you guys, we will cut mountains for them. Even
Hey,
now.
speaking about the women, we got to sum this up so I don't get in trouble with the women. Right? So listen, could everybody give a final 3-minute closeout, and then we'll close out. So let's go the opposite way. Imam Faheem, you go first.
I would just like to say, thank you to all the people who tuned in because, regardless of all the stuff we discuss here, this is about doing this service for you all to gain Allah's pleasure. So what the thing that we agreed upon, one point that we should all agree upon is that every person should be a part of a community. So just like you guys expect the most from us, we expect all of you to be committed to whatever community you're a part of. And, don't ask what the masjid can do for you, but ask what you can do for the masjid, Just be a service, regardless, good, bad, or indifferent. A lot of times we're struggling, and I could just tell you from experience, a lot of times, we all know how to get a bag. We all know how to chase money, and we all know how to make our lives better, but we put a lot of stuff on hold to help you all. Just be sure that you support, good, bad, or indifferent, because if we get the support that we can get, there's a lot of things that we can do. We can do a lot more, So as we continue these discussions, please, help us to get to the next level. And, we welcome all your suggestions and comments, corrections, additions, deletions, distractions, whatever you have, because we at your service still, and I want to thank you, Imam Amin, for inviting me to be a part of this tremendous panel of speakers. I don't know. I think I just using my light skin privilege. That's the only way I got in, because this is, got some ulama here, man. So, but again, I appreciate you all. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all with a wonderful Jumu'ah. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to purify our efforts and accept them from us. I mean,
Ameen. Imam Naeem?
Question. We're gonna do this regularly, weekly, monthly?
Yeah, we're gonna try to set it up. We're gonna probably tackle one topic at a time. We would ask everybody to sing those things. We go over there, and Imam Naeem, maybe you can be in charge of that. Go down through the scroll and write down all those questions so we can start addressing the questions that people had in it, and we'll follow up again.
Okay, inshallah. So my closing statement is, again, we need your participation. And when I say y'all, I'm talking about everybody that's watching this on the live, making comments. And really the last point that we mentioned is critical. And I say it all the time. When I go to a class or I'm teaching a class, the ones who are the most studious and active are the women. In the communities, the brothers want to sit around and philosophize and give you a list of 110 reasons why something wouldn't work. The sisters do it. They get it done. And so we need our brothers to step up. And you hearing it from an imam. The sisters are saying it. Now you got an imam saying it. Brothers need to step up. We philosophize too much. Sit around, talk about what could have, would have, should have, and how it might be, and all that kind of stuff. We gotta get out of that. And so I'm not going to be long with it. I like to also thank Imam Amin for inviting us and bringing together this platform and making this happen. And I hope that we can make this a regular program, maybe weekly, bi-weekly, or something like that, so people know when to expect to tune in, and so that we can be consistent. Because as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the most beloved acts to Allah are those which are done consistent.
So that means you're committed to being consistent. Go ahead, Imam Luqman.
Alhamdulillah. No, Imam, really, I want to thank you for putting on this forum. When you call me today, you know, I usually answer your calls, but it's in my books, man. But
Hey, wait a minute.
but
Your books is packed, ready to go. I don't have
they've
your
been packed,
address.
man. Come on,
So soon as you hang up, listen, soon as you hang up, send me your address.
Okay, I will.
Make sure
I will then.
the books are wrapped and put in the mail. The books is there.
Inshallah, exactly. Okay, I'm waiting for it, man. I'm really waiting. But let me say this. Two things I want to emphasize. One, about the Jamaa'ah. Okay, listen, imams aren't perfect, and you should hold your imam accountable. Everybody who has an imam, you can hold that imam accountable. You can call people. I know you can call any one of these imams. I get calls all the time. I get people send me email, imam, blah blah blah, and I respond to that. But you need to support your imams financially. Every imam on this forum has at least a cash app or something, a fundraiser. You need to really go in your pocket, go in your checkbook and send $5, $10 to their cash app, because, you know, to do this work properly, you really have to put your whole life on the line. You have to, and most imams will agree with me. And we don't mind. This is the life we chose. We chose this life. We chose to do this. We chose to be able to give it all for the sake of Allah. We're no better than anybody else, but I'm just saying that's the role of imam. So support your imam. Look at bay'ah. Look at obligation. It doesn't mean that imam want to sign you up to go out there and do something. No, basically it just helps you stay focused, so that you know, well, that's my imam. You know, if you think that imam is competent, you think he knows what he's talking about, think he's sincere, he's not going to be the angel that you think he is. That's not realistic. If you read our history, no imams have been like that. People of history, even the Khulafa Rashidin, if you look into their actual lives, it wasn't like that they were floating around on clouds. But in order to get the job done in Islamic civilization, it is hard work, and you have to really, sometimes you can walk through, sometimes you have to literally kick the door open. That's just how it is. And I mean figuratively. In order to get discussions going, sometimes you have to have, some imams got to go in and say, listen, man, it's going to be like this. And that's just our history. So consider that. But I'm glad that people tuned in. I see a lot of people tuned in. And but Jazakallah khair, thanks for tuning in. And, you know, my inbox is always open. I assure the other imams as well. But really consider supporting the imam. Support your imams financially, because most imams are struggling. I don't mean struggling, they're starving, but they can't move. They can't. And so other communities, when they see imams like us and other imams, we have been undercut so many times. So many times. We haven't talked about how we're undercut. We're undercut. Because people know this imam, he ain't got no money, but he got a good idea. Take that idea and we'll own it for ourselves. We've had proposals we've submitted to organizations for funding, and they turned us down. But listen, imam, we're not going to fund that. But you funded someplace else in the immigrant community. The same proposal I gave you. They do that. So just be mindful of that. But Jazakallah khair, and I'm honored to be on this program with you brothers, man.
All right, in closing, you know what my intention was, and y'all all know, I'm on building us up. You know, I believe that our ancestors and our predecessors in our community, they did a lot of work. And, you know, a lot of times it's like somebody like you, Imam Luqman, you know, you've been around for decades. You've seen all these things. So we're going to miss this generation of elders if we don't benefit now from that experience. We don't have these heart-to-heart talks we don't share this information with our communities, we're gonna make it more difficult for the coming generations. And then one of the things that we have to do is we have to seize the moment, the now. So all of these conversations that we're going to have, we ain't going to solve all our problems in a couple lectures, a couple of seminars. This is going to be a marathon of work in building our communities. So we got to have, number one, a brotherhood where we can sit down and just kick it as brothers, as imams, as community members, so that all of our masajid become familiar with
Yeah.
each other. So,
Yeah.
yeah, the people in Camden, they know Imam Amin. The people in Atlantic City, they know Imam Amin, Imam Naeem, Imam Luqman, Imam Faheem. In every community, we're familiar with each other because when we come together, we bring our people together. Each of us have a group of people who listen to us, who follow us. So we all get to know how we all should be working together. And in time, we'll have a systematic structure that is passed on for generations. And that's extremely important. So we're going to have these conversations. This ain't the last. I mean, and we're gonna fine tune them. We're going to find ways to bring our communities and the listening audience involved. And we're going to start working this stuff out. And then we're going to set up a structure with talented people. I'll just give you an example. On the in the people that are listening, we got about 5 people with master's degrees among the women that's on this thread right now. At least 5. Some of them working on PhDs. They're listening right now. We just don't know all the stuff we got. We got artists and we got intellectuals, financial people, business people, people that got all kinds of skills, lawyers. All that stuff is in this small group under 100, but there's enough to build a community with all the people we got. And we got people in here with money. We got people I know in here that can write a $10,000 check right now. So I'm just saying, we got to show our people that we are worthy of their support. That's very important.
I think it's very
And the
important.
way we're going to show that is what Imam Amin Naeem indicated is by consistency, right? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Ahabul a'mal ilallah adwamuha wa in qalla." The most beloved deeds to Allah are those which are consistent, even if they are loose. So
Imam,
we
I
just
want to
got to
just
keep that format. Go ahead, Imam.
I want to
And
answer
you got
a
to
quick
close us out
question.
with dua. So
Okay.
you finish and close us out.
All right.
You got
I want to
1 minute.
okay. I want to answer a quick question I saw on here. I just want to address it real quick about ego. You know, because someone mentioned that we got a lot of ego. Let me just explain to you that you need ego in order to be a Muslim. You need a certain amount of ego if you're going to go outside of yourself. If you're going to join the good and forbid the evil, you need to have ego. The Prophet ﷺ had ego. Allah talked about his ego in Kitabillah. Shaitan will try to use your ego. You don't want too much ego, but you have to have a certain amount of ego to engage in any campaign, any sort of effort to change. If you're in leadership and you don't got ego, you're just going to get run over in this climate. You just can't sit there and say, "Mashallah, do is no, it doesn't work like that." So yeah, we do have ego, and make sure that our ego does not go overboard. But any man in his right mind, he has to have a certain amount of ego in order to function. Any Muslim who's active in anything, except if you're just going to sit home and do nothing and not put up your hand against nothing, no joining good, no forbidding evil. Okay, you don't need ego for that. You can just have no ego. But if you're going to be dealing with this society, you need ego. I'm going to leave it at that. I just want to answer that question because.
So can we use the term ego just for clarification, Imam? I think maybe the term we should use, because English can be, can get us confused, because we think ego, or they mean by pride by that, and they mean kibr, which is the blameworthy thing. I think what you're talking about is al-izzah, right?
Yeah,
Pride and dignity in that
Yeah.
sense. I'm a Muslim and I'm
Yeah.
proud to be a Muslim, right?
Right.
So inshallah, could you close us out with dua and we'll pick it up,
Okay.
inshallah.
ربنا لا
Dua is
تزغ
yours.
قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب ربنا اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات وألف بين قلوبنا واجعل في قلوبنا الإيمان والحكمة برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. ونصلي ونسلم ونبارك على سيدنا وحبيبنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
بيصير الأسرار الفاتحة. Barakallahu fikum, and inshallah we'll announce the next gathering. We'll talk about it among us, and then we'll set out a date. We'll put out a flyer, and we'll let the people know. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Thank everyone for attending. We hope that Allah gave you something beneficial, and inshallah we'll see you soon. Assalamu alaikum.
Ameen, ameen. Alaikum
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.